Have you ever stepped into a place where every warning in the galaxy told you not to go? Have you ever crossed a border and felt, before anything happened, that something on the other side was already watching you? Before we move deeper into this forbidden space, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who enjoys dark, mysterious HFY stories where humans are never what the galaxy expects. Script data frowny face, the alarms on my ship screamed before I even understood what I had done. Red light washed over the walls of my small cabin. My hands froze above the controls. My breath stopped halfway in my throat. I had crossed the line. Not a line marked on any normal map. Not a border guarded by patrol ships or trade stations. This was the line every pilot in known space learned to fear before they learned how to dock. This was the edge of the gray veil. The forbidden human domain. And once my ship passed through it, the stars changed. They did not move. They did not burn brighter. No great wall appeared behind me. No weapon locked onto my hull. No voice demanded that I leave. That made it worse. Because the silence that filled my ship was not empty. It felt heavy. It pressed against the cabin from every side, as if space itself had leaned closer to listen. My name is Vexthal Arun. I am a cartographer of the Okaric Concord. My duty is simple. I travel where maps end. I record what I find. I return with knowledge so that others may travel safely after me. I have mapped frozen moons, black storms, dead colonies, and star roads that older species abandoned thousands of years before my people reached space. But nothing prepared me for the first moment inside human territory. Ren, I said to my ship AI, what just happened? Ren did not answer. That alone frightened me. In 6 years of flying together, Ren had never paused. It could calculate engine drift, translate ancient trade codes, and correct my navigation mistakes before I noticed them myself. It never hesitated. This time, 3 full seconds passed. Then its voice came through the speakers, quieter than usual. We crossed the boundary marker, Vex. Old warning beacons are active. I looked at the screen. Ahead, the stars stretched in cold lines of white and blue. Nothing seemed different. Are they ordering us to leave? I asked. No, Ren said. They are recording us. I felt my fingers tighten around the edge of the console. That was not how warnings worked. A warning was supposed to push you back. A warning was supposed to say, turn around. Leave. Do not come closer. These beacons were not warning me. They were making note of my arrival. Everyone in the Concord knew the stories. 300 years ago, humanity vanished behind this region of space. Not destroyed. Not conquered. Not fully defeated. They simply withdrew beyond the gray veil, sealed their systems, and stopped answering the rest of the galaxy. Before that, humans had been everywhere. They traded with young colonies. They argued with old empires. They built fast ships and strange machines. They fought only when cornered, but when they fought, entire councils remembered the sound. Then came the event our histories called the Reckoning. No one taught the details clearly. Even our military records were thin. Parents used the name to frighten children. Pilots used it in jokes they did not really find funny. Historians spoke of it carefully, as if saying too much might wake something old. After the reckoning, humanity disappeared. And every species agreed, without treaty or vote, to leave them alone. You do not enter the gray veil. You do not ask what waits inside. You do not test the silence. I tested it. I told myself I had a reason. I told myself I was a scholar, not a fool. A retired scout named Doran Vell had sold me an old data chip at the edge of Concord space. He said it contained half a route through the veil, copied from a ship that never returned. He laughed when he gave it to me. Nobody comes back with the second half, he told me. Maybe you will be the one. I should have heard the warning in his laughter. Instead, I heard a challenge. I told myself humanity was gone. I told myself 3 centuries was long enough for fear to become myth. I told myself every species in the galaxy had allowed old terror to harden into tradition. I was wrong. Run a full sensor sweep, I said. Running now. The answer came quickly this time, but Ren's voice still sounded thin. Strained. Almost far away. There are shapes ahead, it said. Large objects. No active power signatures. No identification. I cannot get clean readings. Wreckage? I asked. Possibly. What is interfering with your scan? Ren paused again. I am detecting layer transmissions across multiple frequencies. From whom? Unknown. Then Ren said something I will never forget. It sounds like whispering. I sat very still. Play it. Vex, I do not recommend that. Play it, Ren. The speakers crackled. At first, there was only static. Then, under the static, I heard voices. Not one voice. Many. Soft. Broken. Overlapping. Too faint to understand. They rose and faded like breath moving through a room where no living body stood. I could not tell if the sounds were words or signals, but they had rhythm. They had pressure. And somewhere deep inside me, in the old part of the mind that understands danger before language can name it, I knew the whispers were aware of me. Enough, I said. The sound stopped. The silence after it was worse. For a long moment, I considered turning back. My engines could still reverse. I could return through the boundary and pretend the data chip had been corrupted. I could tell no one. I could live with shame more easily than with whatever waited ahead. But pride is a quiet killer. So is curiosity. Ren, I said, set a slow course toward the largest object. Vex, that is not recommended. Noted. Set the course. The ship turned. The lonely cartographer moved deeper into the gray veil. I did not know I was flying into a graveyard. I did not know the silence was not abandonment. I did not know humanity had never really left. The first wreck appeared as a shadow against the stars. Then another. Then 9 more. 11 ships drifted ahead of me, broken and still, arranged in a formation that made my throat tighten. They were not scattered like ordinary debris. They were frozen in a battle line. Their hulls had not drifted far from one another, as if even death had not fully ended their military discipline. Ren, identify them. Working. My ship moved slowly between the first 2 wrecks. The vessels were enormous, their curved hulls layered with old armor. I recognized the design even before Ren confirmed it. Hulkran Assembly War Cruisers, 3rd Generation Fleet Class. My skin went cold. The Hulkran Assembly had been one of the strongest military powers in known space. Their ships were built for long wars and brutal sieges. They were not easy to destroy. Yet here they were, torn open. Not damaged. Opened. One cruiser had been split from bow to stern. Another had its engine core removed so cleanly it looked surgical. A third floated with its weapon decks peeled away from the body of the ship, exposing dark inner corridors to the vacuum. There were no escape pods. Ren, scan for survivors, distress signals, anything. None detected. No active life signs. No escape craft. No emergency beacons, except one faint internal loop aboard the largest cruiser. How long has it been transmitting? Estimated duration, 297 years. A signal almost 3 centuries old. Can you play it? I can attempt reconstruction. Do it. Static filled the cabin again. This time, beneath it, a voice emerged. It spoke in old Hulkran military dialect. Ren translated in real time. Reinforcements requested. No response received. Formation collapsing. Enemy contact unclear. The recording broke. Then returned. They are not fighting like an enemy. More static. They are fighting like something that has already decided how this ends. The signal died. I stared at the wreckage. A fleet of Hulkran war cruisers had entered this place and been destroyed so completely that not one crew had launched an escape pod. Ren, how many ships would normally be required to destroy 11 Hulkran war cruisers? A minimum of 30 comparable vessels for a strong chance of victory, Ren said. 20 under extreme risk. How many attacking ships do you detect from debris pattern? Ren was silent. Answer me. Based on damage angles, lack of surrounding wreckage, and the speed of destruction, my estimate is between 1 and 3. I did not speak. 1 to 3 ships. Against 11 Hulkran war cruisers. And the Hulkran had died so fast their own commander could only record fear. That was when I understood something that made the Grey Veil far more terrible than the stories. Maybe it was not built to keep humanity trapped inside. Maybe it was built to keep the rest of us out. A movement flickered on my sensor display. Small. Controlled. Direct. Ren, I whispered, tell me that is debris. I cannot. What is it? A small object. Size consistent with a reconnaissance drone. It has changed course to match us. My hands moved to the controls. The object approached through the wreckage with impossible smoothness. Every time I shifted direction, it corrected before I completed the movement. It did not chase like a machine trying to catch prey. It followed like a patient eye. Can we outrun it? No, Ren said. Can we fight it? Vex, I do not believe that would be wise. The drone came into visual range. It was small, dark, and smooth, made from a material that swallowed starlight. No markings I could read. No visible weapons. No engine flare. It moved through space like it belonged there more than the stars themselves. Then every screen on my console went black. A single line appeared. You should not be here. My mouth went dry. Ren, did you write that? No. A second line appeared. Leave now and you may still leave whole. Every instinct told me to obey. I had proof now. I had wreckage, recordings, coordinates, and fear enough to fill every archive in the Concord. I could turn back and spend the rest of my life warning others. But what would I really tell them? That I had heard whispers. That I had seen wrecks. That I had been frightened away by a sentence on a screen. No. I had crossed the line. I had come looking for truth. Fear alone was not truth. Send a response, I said. What should I say? Tell them I am not here to cause harm. Tell them I am a cartographer. Tell them I came to map what has never been mapped. Vex, Ren said softly, this may be the last message we ever send. Then make it honest. Ren transmitted. The drone hovered outside. The wrecks drifted around us. Minutes passed. Each one felt longer than the last. Then a new contact appeared. A ship. It emerged from empty space ahead of me, as if the dark had opened and released it. Larger than mine by many times. Not sleek like a warship from Concord design. This vessel looked old, patched, layered, practical. It had the shape of something built to survive, repaired again and again across generations. Ren spoke very quietly. Human biological signatures detected. I stopped breathing. How many? Hundreds. The ship moved closer. Pale lights blinked along its hull. Symbols appeared, strange and unreadable, but I felt their meaning. Not welcome. Not threat. Warning. A voice entered my cabin. Calm. Measured. Human. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space and activated multiple containment protocols. Power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is not a request. Ren, I said. Already done, Ren answered. I disabled our weapons the moment they spoke. I almost laughed. The human ship closed the final distance. I stood in the middle of my cabin with my hands open at my sides, trying to look harmless. It was easy because I was harmless. The airlock sealed with a soft hiss. The door opened. And for the first time in my life, I saw a human. She was not what I expected. I do not know what I expected. Taller, perhaps. Armored. Burning with old rage. A ghost from the stories, shaped like violence and shadow. Instead, she was shorter than me, with dark hair pulled back and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore a plain gray uniform. No visible weapon. No dramatic symbols. But everyone behind her stood in a way that made it clear she did not need to raise her voice twice. "Captain Iris Cade," she said. Her gaze moved across my cabin, my charts, my equipment, then back to me. "Now explain why a Concord cartographer is 300 years past a boundary every intelligent species agreed to respect." "My name is Vex Thal Arun," I said. "I came looking for answers, not conflict." "Answers to what? Why humanity vanished? Why the galaxy fears this place? Why no one asks questions?" Something changed in her face. Not anger. Not surprise. Weariness. "You came a long way for questions most people are too afraid to whisper." "I heard the whispers," I said. To my surprise, she almost smiled. "That is not a haunting. That is old relay traffic. Evacuation orders, automated calls, broken transmissions, layered through dead stations. It was designed to discourage visitors." "It works," I said. "Not well enough, apparently." She studied me for several seconds. "Do you know how many outsiders have made it this far in 300 years?" "No." "4," she said. "Including you." "What happened to the others?" "2 turned back after seeing the wreckage. We escorted them out after removing the exact coordinates from their memory. The 3rd came with weapons and pride. And he learned that silence is not the same as weakness." She did not explain further. She did not need to. Captain Cade turned toward the airlock. "Come aboard my ship, cartographer. Since you were determined enough to enter the dark, you may as well learn why we built it." I followed her. Her ship was not a tomb. That was the first thing that shook me. There were people everywhere. Humans moved through corridors, speaking quietly, carrying tools, checking systems, sharing glances, asking questions. Some paused to look at me, but none stared with the fear I expected. None looked like the last survivors of a ruined species. They looked tired. They looked disciplined. They looked alive. Captain Cade led me to a small room lined with photographs. Real paper photographs, pinned carefully to the walls. Faces. Families. Ships. Children. Old cities. A blue ocean under a wide sky. She sat across from me. "What I am about to tell you is not in your Concord archives," she said. "Your people never understood the reckoning clearly enough to record it." "Then tell me." 300 years ago, humanity was young in the galactic sense. We had reached dozens of systems, but compared to the older powers, we were still new. We were curious, stubborn, fast to adapt, and too unpredictable for empires that preferred slow games. The Hulkran assembly saw us as a future problem. I thought of the wrecks outside. "They attacked you. They called it the silent campaign," she said. "They believed if they struck quickly enough, they could frighten us into submission before we became too difficult to contain. But they failed." Captain Cade's face did not show pride. "Yes," she said. "They failed." "How badly?" "Badly enough that the galaxy changed the way it looked at us." She leaned back. "The Hulkran expected a young species. They found humans under pressure. That is a very different thing. We built faster than they believed possible. We learned their fleet patterns. We broke their supply chains. We adapted to every strategy they used. Then we answered with strategies they had no defense against. You destroyed them." "We ended the war," she said. "That is how the official human records phrase it. But yes. We destroyed enough of them that every other power understood the warning. That should have made you safe. It did, for a while. And that was the problem. I frowned. Safety was the problem. Fear became our shield, Captain Cade said. And a shield can become a throne if you hold it long enough. She looked at the photographs on the wall. After the silent campaign, other species gave us what we wanted before we asked. Trade disputes vanished. Border conflicts ended overnight. Every council room became quieter when a human delegate entered. We did not need to threaten anyone. The memory of what we had done was enough. That sounds like power. It was. And power built on fear is addictive. She spoke with a softness that made the words heavier. Our own leaders began to change. Not all at once. Never all at once. They started asking how fear could protect us. Then how it could benefit us. Then how it could be preserved. Soon, some argued that we should let the galaxy believe the worst, because the worst kept us safe. I understood then. You were becoming what they feared. Yes. Why stop? Because some of us still remembered what we wanted to be before the war taught us what we could become. For the first time, I saw something almost painful in her eyes. Humanity had a choice. Keep rising through fear until every species united against us, or step away before we became the monster everyone already whispered about. So you vanished. We withdrew. We built the gray veil. We sealed our core systems. We left enough warnings to keep curious fools away. I lowered my gaze. No offense, she said. Some taken. She almost smiled again. We gave the galaxy time to forget the shape of its fear. We gave ourselves time to live without feeding on it. And the Hulk ran wreckage outside. Her expression hardened. That came later. A faction inside the assembly believed our silence meant decay. A century after the veil was built, they sent 11 war cruisers through a breach. I already knew the ending. They found you. They found exactly what we had spent a century ensuring we still were. Not weak. No, she said. Not weak. Just quiet. For a long while, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question I had been afraid to ask. What happens to me now? Captain Cade looked at me. That depends on what you plan to do with the truth. For anyone still listening this deep into the story, tap like if the mystery has pulled you in, subscribe for more HFY stories, and share this video with a friend who thinks humans in science fiction should always come with a warning label. They did not lock me in a cell. That surprised me. I expected confinement. I expected guards and sealed doors. I expected to be treated like an intruder, because that was what I was. Instead, they gave me a small room near the crew decks and asked me not to enter restricted areas. It was trust one had not earned. That unsettled me more than hostility would have. For days, I watched humans the way I watched unknown star systems. Carefully. Quietly. Recording every detail. They were not like the stories. Not cold. Not cruel. Not silent ghosts drifting behind a forbidden border. They laughed during meals. They argued over repairs. They taught children in rooms filled with old star maps. They mourned their dead by speaking names aloud and letting silence hold them afterward. Their grief was open in a way that felt almost dangerous. Among my people, sorrow was private. Controlled. Held behind ceremony. Humans carried it differently. They let it breathe. I met a young engineer named Owen Marsh while he was fixing a conduit that looked older than both of us. You are the alien cartographer, he said, without looking up. That is one description. He grinned. I am the human currently keeping this ship from becoming a very expensive coffin. Is it in danger of that? Always. But not today. He worked with quick hands, muttering at the machinery as if it had offended him personally. How old is this ship? I asked. Old enough that half its systems have names, he said. This conduit is Martin. Martin hates me. You named the conduit? No. My grandmother did. She said if something breaks often enough, it becomes family. I did not know how to answer that. Owen laughed at my expression. You will understand humans better when you realize we adopt problems. That sentence stayed with me. Humans adopt problems. They had adopted exile. They had adopted silence. They had adopted a boundary no one thanked them for maintaining. They had adopted fear itself and locked it behind a wall so it would not spread. And still, they laughed in corridors. Captain Cade allowed Ren limited access to old relay archives. Together, we translated portions of the whisper traffic that had frightened me so badly. The voices were not threats. They were evacuations. Families reporting safe arrival. Stations confirming shutdown. Ships calling for missing crew. Mothers leaving final messages for children already sent ahead. Commanders ordering civilian routes cleared. Pilots asking permission to stay behind one more hour. A ghost language made of ordinary fear. I listened until I could not bear to listen anymore. Why leave the transmissions running? I asked Captain Cade. She stared through the observation window at the dark. At first, because they helped keep people away. Later, because no one wanted to be the one who turned off the last voices of the old world. Do humans ever regret choosing this? Every generation asks that question, she said. Every generation answers it differently. And you? She took a long time. I believe we made the right choice. I do not believe the right choice is always kind. The more time I spent aboard the human ship, the less simple everything became. I had come looking for monsters. I found people. But people can be dangerous. Perhaps more dangerous than monsters, because people can choose restraint. They can decide when not to strike. They can carry power without showing it. They can wait. And humans were very good at waiting. Then the alarm sounded. It was not loud. That made it terrifying. A low pulse moved through the ship. Slow. Steady. Like a heartbeat under the floor. The corridor lights changed from white to deep red. Doors opened. Crew members moved at once, not running, not panicking, but shifting into roles with practiced speed. Owen rushed past me, no smile now. What is happening? I asked. Boundary breach, he said. Incoming fleet. How many ships? He stopped just long enough for fear to cross his face. Enough that Captain Cade activated full defense protocol. Then he was gone. I should have returned to my quarters. I went to the command deck. No one stopped me. Perhaps they were too busy. Perhaps Captain Cade had decided I should see what truth looked like from every angle. The command deck was calm. That made it worse. Dozens of humans worked in silence, eyes fixed on displays. Captain Cade stood at the center, hands folded behind her back, staring at a tactical map. 43 red contacts moved toward the boundary interior. Hulk ran. I asked. A faction of the assembly, she said. Not officially, of course. Empires enjoy pretending their worst decisions belong to someone else. 43 ships. Yes. I thought of the 11 wrecks. They know what happened here before. They know enough to believe they can do better. What will you do? Captain Cade looked at me. What we always do when someone mistakes patience for weakness. On the main display, the incoming ship spread into a wide formation. They expect a single point of resistance, I said. Captain Cade glanced at me. Good eye. Then what they entered was not a battlefield. It was a trap wearing the face of a graveyard. Objects I had mistaken for debris began moving. Hundreds of them. Dark platforms hidden among wreckage, powered down for decades, now waking one by one. Defense satellites. Drone nests. Silent mines. Relay towers. Ren whispered through my wrist convex, this region is not just a memorial. It is a defense network. The Hulkran fleet crossed an invisible marker. Captain Cade gave one order. Begin. The stars answered. Defense platforms moved with perfect coordination. They did not fire wildly. They did not rush. They struck engines first, then weapon arrays, then command relays. Ships that tried to retreat found their drives cut. Ships that fired again were hit harder. I watched a cruiser 3 times the size of Captain Cade's ship go dark in less than 30 seconds. They are disabling them, I said. When possible, Cade replied. Why? Destroyed ships teach fear. Disabled ships carry memory home. Not every ship was spared. One Hulkran destroyer launched a full spread of weapons toward a civilian habitat marker hidden beyond the defense line. Captain Cade's voice changed. Only slightly. Remove it. A platform rotated. A white pulse crossed the display. The destroyer vanished. No explosion at first. Just absence. Then fragments spread outward like sparks from a dying fire. No one on the command deck cheered. No one smiled. That frightened me more than celebration would have. The engagement lasted 19 minutes. 43 ships entered. 31 survived, disabled and drifting. 12 were destroyed. The human defense network remained intact. Captain Cade ordered rescue channels opened. I turned toward her. You are offering aid? We are not murderers, she said. They came here as enemies. The ones still alive are now survivors. I did not know what to say. A human officer turned from her station. Captain, incoming transmission from the enemy flagship. They are requesting terms. Cade looked at the display. Put them through. The Hulkran commander appeared on the screen. His armor was cracked. Smoke moved behind him. His face carried disbelief more than fear. Human vessel, he said, voice shaking with anger, you have attacked assembly ships. Captain Cade answered calmly. You entered restricted human space with weapons active. You ignored 3 boundary warnings. You crossed the inner marker. You fired first. This region does not belong to you. It belongs to whoever can hold it, Cade said. The commander froze. The words were not loud. They were not shouted. But something in them reached across 3 centuries of silence and placed a hand around the throat of every old empire that had ever forgotten why humanity stepped away. Then Cade continued. You will shut down all remaining weapons. You will accept medical aid. You will allow your ships to be towed to the outer boundary. You will carry a message home. What message? Captain Cade leaned closer. Tell them the gray veil still stands because we choose restraint, not because we lack strength. Tell them we are tired of repeating this lesson. Tell them the next fleet that crosses our boundary will not be disabled. The Hulkran commander stared. Then, slowly, he bowed his head. Transmission ended. I realized my hands were shaking. Captain Cade noticed. Now you understand, she said. I understand why they fear you. No, she replied. That part was easy. I want you to understand why we fear ourselves enough to remain here. That sentence cut deeper than any weapon I had seen. In that moment, the truth of humanity became clear. They were not hiding because they were afraid of the galaxy. They were hiding because they knew exactly what they could do to it. And they had chosen, for 300 years, not to do it. After the battle, the human ship changed. Not outwardly. People still moved through corridors. Engineers repaired systems. Children were kept away from damaged viewing ports. Medical teams prepared to receive enemy wounded. But something heavier filled the air. The cost of restraint had returned. I went with Captain Cade to the medical bay when the first Hulkran survivors arrived. I expected hatred. I expected cold treatment. I expected humans to save them only because strategy demanded it. Instead, I saw a human medic kneel beside a wounded Hulkran officer and speak softly while sealing a deep wound in his side. You are safe here, she told him. The Hulkran stared at her with terrified eyes. Why? The medic did not understand. Why help me? Because you are bleeding. That was her whole answer. No philosophy. No speech. No revenge. No grand moral display. A person was bleeding. So a human stopped the bleeding. Later, I found Owen in an engine access bay, sitting on the floor with black grease on his face. "Martin survived," he said. "I am glad." "Barely." He is being dramatic. He looked tired now. Younger than before. "Did you watch the battle?" he asked. "Yes." "And?" "I am trying to understand it." He nodded. "That sounds about right. Most of us are too. You train for this." "We do. But you do not want it." He wiped his hands on a cloth. "Wanting it is what we are afraid of." Owen looked toward the wall, where the engine vibration hummed through old metal. "My great-grandfather used to say every human has two duties. Keep the fire alive, and keep it from burning down the house." I thought of the defense platforms, the silent weapons, the instant destruction of ships that refused restraint. "That is not easy." "No," Owen said. "But easy choices are not the ones that define a species." The next day, Captain Cade summoned me back to the photograph room. The walls looked different after the battle. Not because anything had changed, but because I had. The smiling faces in the old images no longer looked like ghosts of a vanished civilization. They looked like witnesses. People whose descendants had carried a burden too large for any one generation, yet somehow passed it forward without letting it crush them completely. Captain Cade placed a small device on the table. "Your ship has been repaired and refueled," she said. "Ren has been fully restored. Your records have been reviewed." I sat still. "Reviewed?" "Yes. You recorded a great deal. Did you erase it?" "Some coordinates. Some defense information. Some technical data you were never meant to carry. The rest remains." I stared at her. "You are letting me leave with the truth?" "With enough of it." "Why?" "Because the battle changed things," she said. "The Hulkran survivors will return home. Their leaders will deny the truth, distort it, weaponize it, or bury it. The Concord will hear rumors. Other powers will ask questions. Silence alone may no longer be enough. And you want me to speak. I want you to understand before you speak." She pushed the device toward me. "This contains a record prepared for your Concord Council. Not a surrender. Not a request. A statement." "What does it say?" "It says humanity remains within the gray veil by choice. It says our boundary is not an invitation, not a challenge, and not a relic. It says we desire no expansion, no tribute, and no revenge. It says we will continue to leave the galaxy in peace as long as the galaxy leaves us in peace. And if they do not?" Captain Cade looked at me for a long moment. "Then we will stop leaving them in peace." The words were quiet. The room felt colder. I took the device. "Why trust me with this?" "Because you came with curiosity instead of weapons. Because you stayed after fear gave you every reason to leave. Because you watched us save our enemies after defeating them. And because someone outside this boundary must learn the difference between a monster and a guardian before the galaxy forgets completely." I lowered my eyes. "I do not know if they will listen to me." "They may not." That was the most human answer she could have given. To everyone who has stayed with Vex through the whispers, the wreckage, and the truth behind the gray veil, give this video a like, subscribe for more cinematic HFY stories, and share it so another traveler can enter the forbidden dark with us. My return to the lonely cartographer felt stranger than my arrival. My ship was familiar, yet I was not the same person who had flown it into the veil. The cabin lights were softer than I remembered. The console felt smaller beneath my hands. Ren's voice came through the speakers. "It is good to have you back, Vex. It is good to hear you properly again. I should mention," Ren said, "that I strongly recommend never doing anything like this again." I almost smiled. Recommendation noted. Captain Cade escorted me personally to the airlock. Behind her, 2 crew members waited, but their posture was relaxed now. At the threshold, she stopped. "There is one more thing you should understand. I looked at her. If your council tries to use your report to locate us, they will fail. If they try to send probes, they will lose them. If they send ships, we will turn them back. If they send fleets, we will answer. I know. Do you? I thought of the Hulkran ships drifting powerless. I thought of the destroyed cruiser vanishing in a silent flash. I thought of the human medic telling a wounded enemy he was safe because he was bleeding. Yes, I said. I understand. Captain Cade studied me carefully. No, cartographer. I think you are beginning to. Then she offered her hand. I had seen humans do this many times aboard the ship. A gesture of greeting. Agreement. Trust. Farewell. I took it. Her grip was warm and firm. Safe travels, Vex Thalarun. Stay hidden, Captain Cade. She gave me a small smile. We intend to. The airlock closed. I returned to my seat. The lonely cartographer detached from the human ship and drifted back into the graveyard. The 11 old Hulkran wrecks surrounded me again, but they no longer looked the same. When I first saw them, I thought they were proof of horror. Now I understood they were proof of a decision. A terrible decision, yes. A violent decision. But not a mindless one. They were a message carved into space by a species that had learned how rarely words were enough. Ren guided us toward the boundary. The whispering returned as we passed the old relay network. This time, I did not order Ren to silence it. I listened. The voices moved softly through the speakers. A woman telling someone to take care of the children. A pilot confirming evacuation route clear. A man laughing through tears as he said he would see home again, even though history suggested he never did. A child asking why the stars looked different. These were not ghosts meant to haunt travelers. They were memories, left in orbit around a choice. I wondered how many generations of humans had grown up hearing those voices. I wondered if they found comfort in them or pain. I wondered if, after enough time, the two became impossible to separate. As the boundary grew closer, Ren spoke. Vex, what will you tell the Concord? The truth. That is a broad answer. It is the only one I have. The boundary beacons appeared on sensors. They recorded us again. No warning. No threat. Just witness. When my ship crossed out of the gray veil, the weight lifted from the cabin. Normal space returned. Stars looked like stars again. But I did not feel relief. I felt grief. Because I had entered forbidden human space believing I would find a secret that belonged to the galaxy. Instead, I found a burden humanity had been carrying alone. The trip back to Concord territory took 11 days. During that time, I reviewed every recording Captain Cade allowed me to keep. I listened to her explanation again and again. I watched the battle until I could track the movements of the defense platforms. I watched the medical bay footage until I understood why it mattered even more than the battle. Ren helped me build the report. At first, I wrote like a cartographer. Coordinates removed. Boundary structure unknown. Human presence confirmed. Military capacity significant. Contact controlled. Threat level extreme. Then I deleted it. It was accurate. It was also useless. The Concord did not need another warning shaped like fear. We had enough of those. Fear without understanding had brought me into the veil. Fear without understanding had brought the Hulkran fleet to destruction. So I began again. Humanity survives. Humanity has not weakened. Humanity does not seek contact, conquest, tribute, or revenge. The gray veil is self-maintained. Its purpose is not imprisonment. Its purpose is restraint. I paused on that word. Restraint. It looked too small for what it carried. How do you explain a species that can destroy you, but does not want to? How do you explain people who built weapons powerful enough to terrify empires, then hid themselves away because they feared becoming proud of those weapons? How do you explain mercy that arrives after defeat, not before it? Ren interrupted my thoughts. There is a flaw in your report. Only one. A major one. Tell me. You are assuming the Concord Council wants truth more than comfort. I leaned back. That is not a flaw in the report. That is a flaw in politics. Ren made a soft sound that might have been its version of agreement. When we reached the Concord Capital Station, I was met by security before my engines fully cooled. They expected madness, I think. Or infection. Or some hidden human machine buried in my skull. They scanned me, questioned me, isolated me, scanned me again, and demanded to know how I had survived. I told them I knocked politely. They did not find that amusing. After 30 hours, they brought me before a closed council. 9 officials sat above me in a curved chamber lined with old banners. Every species of the Concord represented there had, for 3 centuries, agreed to leave the gray veil untouched. Now I stood before them as the first Concord cartographer to cross it and return. High Counselor Maresh spoke first. Vex Thalarun, you knowingly violated restricted navigation law, endangered Concord security, and entered a prohibited region. Before judgment is passed, you will explain what you found. I looked at the faces above me. Fear hid behind their formal expressions. Not concern. Fear. I activated the first recording. The chamber filled with whispers. Several counselors stiffened. I let them listen for 30 seconds before I spoke. These are human evacuation relays. Not threats. Not spirits. Not weapons. Memories. Then I showed them the wreckage. The 11 Hulkran war cruisers. The chamber went silent. One counselor whispered, "Impossible." I showed them the old distress recording. They are not fighting like an enemy. They are fighting like something that has already decided how this ends. Then I showed them Captain Cade. Her image appeared above the council floor, calm and steady. Humanity remains inside the gray veil by choice. We seek no conflict with the Concord. We seek no territory beyond our boundary. We ask only that our silence be respected. But understand this clearly. Silence is not surrender. Isolation is not decay. Restraint is not weakness. The message ended. No one spoke. Then Maresh leaned forward. This is a threat. No, I said. It is a boundary. A boundary enforced by hidden weapons. Most boundaries are. He narrowed his eyes. You sympathize with them. I understand them better than I did. That is not the same thing. Another counselor spoke. You claim humanity hid itself to protect the galaxy from its own fear. Convenient. Perhaps they are waiting. Rebuilding. Preparing. They have had 300 years to attack us, I said. They did not. Because they could not. I looked at him. The Hulkran believed that too. The room went very still. High Counselor Maresh stared down at me. Careful, cartographer. I am being careful. That is why I am telling you the truth before someone turns ignorance into policy. A low murmur moved through the council. I continued before they could stop me. The danger is not that humanity will invade us tomorrow. The danger is that we will convince ourselves their silence is an opportunity. That we will send probes, then scouts, then warships, each step justified by fear of what we do not understand. The Hulkran tried that. Twice. The Second Fleet survived only because humanity chose to let survivors carry the warning home. One counselor leaned forward. You saw this battle? Yes. How many human ships engaged? No human ship entered direct combat. Confusion spread across the chamber. Then what defeated the Hulkran fleet? The boundary itself. That answer did more than frighten them. It humbled them. At least for a moment. And sometimes, in council chambers, a moment is all truth gets. They dismissed me after hours of questioning. My report was sealed. My ship was impounded. My rank was suspended pending review. Officially, nothing happened. Unofficially, everyone knew something had changed. Rumors spread through the station within 2 days. Humanity was alive. Humanity had spoken. The gray veil was not empty. Some called me a liar. Some called me infected by human propaganda. Some called me brave. I trusted none of them. Doranvel found me in the same shipyard bar where he had sold me the data chip. He looked older than I remembered. "You came back," he said. "No thanks to you." He laughed softly. "Nobody forced you to fly the route. You knew more than you told me." I knew enough to know I did not want to know more. I sat across from him. "Where did you get the chip?" He stared into his drink. "From my mentor. She got it from someone else. The route has been passed around for years. Always half a map. Always a dare. Most who buy it never go. You wanted me to go. I wanted someone to prove the fear wrong. And did I?" He finally looked at me. "I do not know. I thought about Captain Cade. Owen. The photographs. The wreckage. The medical bay." "No," I said. "I did not prove the fear wrong." Doran's face fell. Then I added, "I proved it was incomplete." "That is worse," he said. "Yes. The council kept my report sealed, but sealed truths have a way of leaking through the cracks of frightened institutions. Within weeks, 3 neighboring governments requested private briefings. Hulkran officials denied any fleet had entered the Vale, which convinced almost no one. Merchants began avoiding routes near the boundary. Military academies quietly updated their strategic models. But the most important change was smaller. Pilots stopped joking about the gray veil. Old jokes require distance. The truth had moved too close. I was eventually allowed to reclaim my ship, though not my official rank. The Concord did not know whether to punish me or use me, so they did both poorly. Ren came back online with a pleasant chime. "I see they failed to improve your decision-making during our separation," it said. "I missed you too. Where are we going now?" I looked at the star map. For the first time in my life, there was a region I refused to chart. Not because I feared it. Because I understood that some doors remain closed not from ignorance, but from respect. "Set course away from the Vale," I said. "Gladly." Then I paused. "Ren." "Yes, Vex." "Keep a passive channel open for old human relay frequencies." There was a brief silence. "May I ask why?" "Because if the whispers ever change, I want to know." Ren accepted the command. The stars stretched ahead. Behind us, far beyond sensor range, the gray veil waited. Not dead. Not empty. Not defeated. Waiting. Months passed. The galaxy did what the galaxy always does with uncomfortable truth. It argued. It denied. It reshaped the story into versions each species could survive hearing. Some said humanity was a threat waiting to return. Some said humanity was a myth revived by political fear. Some said the veil should be studied for the good of all. Those were the ones who frightened me most. Because curiosity without humility is just invasion wearing a scholar's coat. I began speaking wherever I was allowed. Small chambers at first. Navigation guilds. Pilot schools. Archive councils. Border authorities. I told the same story again and again. I told them about the whispers. I told them about the wreckage. I told them about Captain Cade. I told them about the battle. But most of all, I told them about the medical bay. That part confused many listeners. Why focus on the wounded enemies? They asked. Why not speak more about the weapons? Because weapons explained what humans could do. The medical bay explained who they were trying to remain. One night, after a lecture at a trade academy, a young pilot approached me. "Do you think they will ever come back?" she asked. "Humanity?" She nodded. I considered lying. A comforting answer would have been easy. Instead, I told her the truth. I think they will return only when they believe the galaxy can meet them without turning fear into worship or war. That may never happen, she said. Maybe. And if someone attacks them again? Then the gray veil will answer. She swallowed. Are humans good? I thought of Captain Cade's tired eyes. No species is good all the time, I said. That is why restraint matters. The young pilot nodded slowly, though I could see she did not fully understand. Maybe she would one day. Maybe understanding always begins that way, as a shape not yet clear. If this story has given you chills, leave a like so more listeners can find it, subscribe for the next HFY journey, and share this video with someone who understands that the strongest humans are often the ones trying hardest not to show their strength. 1 year after my return, I received a message with no origin. Ren detected it first. Vex, we have an incoming encrypted packet. From the Concord? No. Hulkran? No. Human? Ren paused. I believe so. My heart tightened. Open it. The message contained no coordinates. No greeting. No threat. Only a short video. Captain Cade stood in the photograph room. Behind her, the same faces lined the wall. She looked tired, but alive. Cartographer, she said, if this reaches you, then your report did enough to matter. Boundary intrusions have decreased. Probes still come, of course. Curiosity is stubborn. But fleets have stopped approaching. She looked away briefly, as if listening to something beyond the frame. Some among us argued that allowing you to leave was a mistake. Perhaps they are right. Time will decide. But Owen asked me to tell you Martin is still functioning, against all engineering expectations. I smiled despite myself. Cade's expression softened. You asked once if we regretted isolation. I have thought about that question often. The honest answer is yes. We regret it every day. We regret what our children never saw. We regret the worlds we left behind. We regret every friendship that might have existed if fear had not reached the room first. She stepped closer to the recording device. But regret does not always mean the choice was wrong. Sometimes it means the right choice still cost something. She paused. Keep telling them that, Vex. Not because we need sympathy. Because one day, if the veil opens, we would rather meet a galaxy that understands cost than one that only remembers power. The message ended. I sat in silence. Ren spoke gently. Would you like to save it? Save 3 copies. Already done. For a long time, I stared at the dark screen. Then I began writing again. Not an official report this time. A story. Because reports can be sealed. Councils can bury evidence. Governments can soften language until truth becomes harmless. Stories survive differently. They move through pilots and children, through station workers and old scouts, through anyone who has ever looked at a forbidden star and wondered what waited beyond it. So I wrote what happened as plainly as I could. I wrote that I crossed the line. I wrote that I was afraid. I wrote that the whispers were not monsters, but memories. I wrote that humanity had not vanished because it was weak. It vanished because it was strong enough to fear what strength could become. And that is the part one hope the galaxy remembers. Not the weapons. Not the wreckage. Not the speed with which 43 ships were broken. Remember the choice. A species tasted fear as power and stepped away before it became drunk on it. A species built a wall around itself, not to imprison its enemies, but to protect them from what endless fear might make of everyone. A species kept its fire alive for 300 years and guarded the house from burning. That is humanity. Not saints. Not monsters. Something harder to understand. People. Strong enough to destroy. Wise enough, on most days, not to. Years later, when I was older and no longer officially unwelcome in most Concord institutions, I returned near the edge of the gray veil. Not inside. Never inside. I stopped at the last legal navigation point and looked toward the forbidden stars. Ren dimmed the cabin lights without being asked. "Do you expect a signal?" it asked. "No." "Then why come?" "To remember." The old boundary beacons were too far away to detect clearly, but I knew they were there. Recording. Waiting. Silent. I wondered if Captain Cade was still alive. I wondered if Owen had finally replaced Martin or if the cursed conduit had achieved immortality through stubbornness. I wondered if human children still ran through ship corridors, learning about stars they were not allowed to visit. And I wondered what would happen when the veil opened. Because someday, it would. No wall lasts forever. No silence remains unbroken forever. No people can live only as a warning. When that day comes, the galaxy will look toward human space and remember every frightening story first. It will remember the reckoning. It will remember the Hulkran wreckage. It will remember the fleet that entered with 43 ships and returned broken. I hope it also remembers the medic. I hope it remembers the photographs. I hope it remembers Captain Cade's message. Regret does not always mean the choice was wrong. Sometimes it means the right choice still cost something. Ren played the old relay whispers softly through the cabin. This time, they did not frighten me. They sounded like distant rain. Voices layered across time. Warnings, yes. But also proof. Proof that behind the forbidden border, behind the defense grids, behind the old wreckage and patient drones, humanity had remained alive. Not waiting to conquer. Not begging to return. Simply holding a line it had drawn for itself when power became too easy and fear became too useful. That is why travelers still speak carefully of the gray veil. That is why pilots lower their voices when human space appears on old charts. That is why even now, after all I have seen, I tell every young scout the same thing. Do not enter the forbidden human domain. Not because humans are monsters. Not because they are ghosts. Not because the whispers will steal your soul or the stars themselves will turn against you. Do not enter because some boundaries are written in wisdom deeper than law. Do not enter because the silence there was purchased with grief, discipline, and mercy held under strain. Do not enter because humanity asked for one thing from the galaxy. Distance. And after everything I witnessed, I believe they earned it. Still, sometimes, when the ship is quiet and the stars stretch long across the viewing glass, I think of that first question that pulled me across the line. What really waits inside the gray veil? Now I know. The answer is not death. The answer is not darkness. The answer is not even war, though war sleeps there with one eye open. What waits inside the gray veil is humanity. Patient. Watchful. Wounded. Kind when it can be. Terrible when it must be. And still whispering among the stars.